Now, I've made a few changes from the draft that I showed in my previous videos, and in this video, I'm going to go through them. Alright, so picking goalkeepers and defenders, I'm always going to go back to two fundamental models and predictions, right? The things for me to look at when picking defenders in FPL is a combination of clean sheet odds and defenders' likelihoods to get attacking returns, right? First up, clean sheet odds. Now, 11FI here, I'll leave a link to them in the description. They have ranked all the teams in the Premier League, basically, their likelihood of keeping clean sheets over the first 6 game weeks. Arsenal number 1, expected to get 2.48 clean sheets. Man City number 2, Liverpool number 3, Villa 4th, Palace 5th. This can kind of give you an idea of the best defenders to pick from, right? On top of that, we've got projected goal involvement according to RobTFPL. This is from spread betting market data. So again, I've explained this in previous videos, but spread betting markets are, well, it essentially is the best projected outcome algorithms and maths you can get, right? Betting companies invest millions and millions into having, you know, the best predictions to try and make as much profit as they can on people placing bets, basically, right? So naturally, looking at their models are going to produce the best sort of projected outcomes in my mind. So projected goal involvement, you've got Trent, Porro, Trippier, Robertson, Reece James, Martin, Guardiola. You can see the rest of the players here. This is across the whole season, right? So combine that with clean sheet odds, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Villa, Crystal Palace coming out on top. That should kind of give you an idea of who to pick, and obviously I'm picking based on this as well. A final thing to look at was just around the 4.5 million defenders. Now, there are so many in the game that you can pick from, right? Ezri Konsa we just saw there. Aston Villa's clean sheet odds to kick off are really quite nice. You know, I'd back them to have a good season. Crystal Palace looking pretty good, although it does look like they're going to lose Mark Gahey. There's 3 defenders from Crystal Palace at 4.5, Anderson, Gahey, Richards. Mikalenko of Everton kept 9 clean sheets last season. Probably offers, you know, the most attacking threat of all of those Everton defenders. Martinez of Man United. I do think Man United are going to improve on last season. He should be a regular starter there at 4.5 million. I put in Dan Burn. Now, I don't necessarily expect Dan Burn to, at least, I don't expect him to start at fullback. I think Lewis Hall and Livramento will be the 2 starting fullbacks for Newcastle. Bearing in mind, though, that Trippier, you know, potentially moving to Saudi Arabia. I don't think that's completely confirmed yet. So I would think that Lewis Hall, in my mind, is most likely to start at left back for Newcastle. And, you know, he doesn't really have many stats to compare to last season because he didn't play all that many games. But you got Dan Burns to look at. In 32 starts, he got 2 goals, 2 assists, and kept 8 clean sheets, which is not too bad at all. And then I also really like Anthony Robinson. Not with that first fixture, Man United away, don't get me wrong. Kept 9 clean sheets, same number as Mikalenko, but the first, well, game weeks 2 and 3, the fixtures for him are really, really nice. He's got Leicester and then Ipswich, 2 really, really good fixtures where you've got to think he's got a chance of getting some attacking returns because I think Leicester and Ipswich will be fairly poor defensively and also, of course, keeping clean sheets. Fulham were fairly decent defensively last season, and I would back Robinson to get, you know, at least 1 clean sheet over those 3. So with all that in mind then, here is where I've gone with my defence. I'll show you who's on my bench later on in the video. Dean Henderson in goal. I do think he's going to be the number 1 Crystal Palace goalkeeper. And as we saw when we went through the clean sheet odds, Crystal Palace are the 5th best team in the league. As it stands at the moment, of course, with Gahey still in their ranks. The 5th best team for clean sheet odds for the first 6 game weeks. Mikalenko, I really like him. I think he's the most attacking of the Everton defenders. He's going to play every game that he's fit for, in my mind. In Everton, you know, especially under Sean Dyche, prove their worth defensively, and I think they're going to make Goodison Park a bit of a defensive, you know, fortress next season. Brighton at home first up at Goodison Park. Yeah, I think he's a decent option. Lewis Hall, I will admit, he is a bit of a risk, right? We do not know, we cannot guarantee that he is going to play. I'm placing my bets that he will. You know, we might get info coming out before the start of the season that he's not going to start. Particularly one thing to bear in mind is if Gahey moves to Newcastle, he's only 4.5 million. You got to think if they sign him for 65 to 70 million, he's going to be a fairly sure starter for him. So, you know, if I don't necessarily trust Lewis Hall, I could go for Mark Gahey if he signs for Newcastle. And one thing about Mark Gahey, right, he's so good defensively in my mind that he really improves Newcastle. And I think they keep even more clean sheets with him in the team. And then I went for Trent. He is just, well, in my mind anyway, from an attacking perspective, he is just levels above the rest of the defenders in the game. And when we saw the clean sheet odds, I'll just go back to them a second. Liverpool are third, and to be honest, there's not a whole lot in it between Liverpool and Man City, who I might be the other team that I consider going for. And when we look at the defender expected goal involvement as well, it's him and Porro sort of joint 11 to 13 sort of expected goal involvement, and they are just so far clear of any of the other defenders in the game. And for me, I wouldn't back Porro to keep half as many clean sheets as Trent could. So I really like Trent as an option. Kicks off the season with Ipswich away. I think there's a chance of a clean sheet in that game, a chance of bonus points, and a chance of attacking returns. So yeah, that's my goalkeeper and defence. Now, I'm conscious I keep showing these Rob T FPL stats every time I do a team reveal video, but they get updated constantly, so I really would recommend following him on Twitter. You can see the trend data here is how things have changed, sort of almost day on day, week on week, really. We've had the signing, interestingly, of Nicholas Füllkrug. He's back to score sort of 12 goals, get 4 assists this season, which is fairly decent total. I don't think I'm going to give it away. I don't think I'm going to start with him. He's come into the game, I believe, at 7 million, which could be a really good price for him. If he can stay fit, he could potentially be taking penalties for West Ham. I really like him as a striker, but I would just like to give him time to see how he, beds in the Premier League. But I think he could be a really nice option. Outside of that, we've got Haaland, #1 for expected goal involvements across the league season, 33.5, Salah 28.5, Saka 27. You can see how players rank for projected goal involvements there. And ultimately, a combination of this, some expected points data, obviously my judgment is going to be how I pick my midfield and forwards. And speaking of my midfield and forwards, I've gone for this. I've gone for Nkunku, who I think looks quite good for Chelsea in pre-season. I think he's pretty likely to start most weeks for them. And once they get that game week fixture, or game week 1 fixture against Man City at home out of the way, where, to be honest, he could score. Man City were not the best defence in the league last season. He could well score in that one. They got a really nice fixture run. Anthony Gordon, absolute star of the game last season. Plays pretty much every game he's fit for Newcastle. Got 30-ish attacking returns last year. 7.5 million, I think, is a really good price for him. And I only see his game improving and him getting more returns this season than he did last season. So yeah, I really like him as an option. Eberiche Eze, he's been in every single draft I've made in this game, alongside, I think, Mo Salah as well. I just don't see any reason why you go without him. With Elise going, he's going to be on penalties for Crystal Palace, going to take their free kicks, going to be their absolute talisman, start every game. I think he's going to be a really nice option this season. The only thing that would put me off is if he gets a move. He was linked to Tottenham earlier on in the transfer window, but now I think Tottenham look to be spending money on Solanke, so does that take away from then signing Eze? I think Crystal Palace, particularly losing Guéhi as well, they've lost Elise already, could be losing Guéhi. I don't think they can afford to lose Eze now, and they will just charge through the roof for him, so I think he stays, to be honest. He's obviously going to be a really good option. Mo Salah, I think the greatest FPL player of all time. Ipswich away first up. I think he's the best captain for game week 1, and I just don't see myself going without him. I will admit that Emil Smith-Rowe is a little bit of a punt, right? Because he just didn't play enough minutes for Arsenal last season, there aren't really any stats I can show you to back up my pick, because he just didn't play enough minutes. It's purely my belief that 5.5 million is good value for what he's going to bring. I just think, he just stinks of that kind of, I don't know, it feels like a narrative to me of a player that couldn't quite get in the starting 11 of a top Premier League team, goes down the league to sort of a mid-table side and absolutely proves to be a world beater. And I think Smith-Rowe could play at that level for Fulham. I'm really hoping he does, because if he does at 5.5 million, I think he's really good value. And also, at that price point, there are other midfielders you can go for. So if he doesn't perform, it's not the end of the world if you need to sell him and bring in someone else. So yeah, Nkunku, Gordon, Eze, Salah, Smith-Rowe are my midfield. Obviously, 5 in midfield means 2 up front, and I've gone for Haaland and Isak. I mean, I don't really need to say too much about Isak. I think of all the players in the game, he would be the first name on my team sheet. If he doesn't get injured before the start of the season, he's an absolute lock, right? 8.5 million for the upside that he provides. I think if he can stay fit for a majority of the season, he's going to get 25 goals. I believe he's now the confirmed Newcastle penalty taker. Nailed on to start when he's fit for them. Just absolutely fantastic goal scorer and asset in my mind. And Southampton at home first up, you could genuinely make an argument to captain him for that fixture. Now, if you didn't want to pick Salah in your team, for example, I wouldn't be too worried about having to captain Isak instead. Although, of course, I do believe that Salah is the best captain. And then outside of that, I went for Erling Haaland. Yes, I'm not going to captain him against Chelsea away in Game Week 1, but he's got Ipswich away at home, in Game Week 2, and West Ham away in Game Week 3. 2 game weeks where I really think I would captain him. And just going back to those projected goal involvement odds, he's so far ahead of the rest of the players in the league for, spread betting markets, the best algorithms, best projection maths that you can put together. He topped the list by a mile. So for that reason, I think it's worth going for Erling Haaland. And as you can see here, I think you can build a pretty strong and well-balanced team with both Haaland and Salah. Then just a quick whiz through my bench. It follows the same structure, really, as most 3-5-2 teams, right? You can have a 4 million starting defender, who I think will be Barco. I think he's the strongest of the 4 million defenders. Estupinian out injured at the moment. He's expected to start for Brighton. There are other options, Harbour, Bellis, Wout Faes, etc. You could also pick there. And I went for Anthony Robinson as my 4.5 million bench defender. He's got Man United away first up, so I'd struggle to play him in that game. And then Leicester and Ipswich in game weeks 2 and 3. Fulham have looked really good in pre-season. Robinson is, I think, a really, really accomplished and good left-back, both defensively and from an attacking perspective. I think he could be on for a bit of a breakout season, to be honest. And with those games, Leicester, Ipswich, game weeks 2 and 3, I think I might well be starting him. Bench him game week 1 and look to play him game week 2 would be my strategy there. Goalkeeper, don't really need to talk too much about a 4 million goalkeeper. Quite simply, there aren't any 4 million goalkeepers that are going to start in this game at the moment. One might emerge as we go through the season, but ultimately I've just picked Dan Bentley because he played some minutes and he was preferred to Jose Sarr for small portions of last season. I feel like of all the 4 million goalkeepers, he's probably the most likely to start, so I went for him. Not that there's really anything in it, so yeah, you could change that all you like, to be honest. So yeah, that's my team. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful, just hearing my thoughts on my latest draft. I've changed it a little bit since my last one, so I thought it'd be worth making a video. Genuinely, I think I'm nearly there now. I was a little bit hesitant, and the last draft I had Chris Wood. I was a little bit hesitant about picking Chris Wood, just because I didn't know how long he would stay in that Nottingham Forest team for. And I feel like picking Chris Wood, you get him for 3 fixtures, and then you probably want to get rid of him because the fixtures turn, and he might no longer actually be starting for them. Whereas going for Smith Rowe, I think with the money they paid for him, he's just going to play every game that he's fit for Fulham. That's just my view anyway. So that's why I made that change. And it also allows me to spend a little bit more on defence. And I've upgraded Guardiola to Trent as well. So if you enjoyed that video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments what you think of my team. If there's anything you suggest should change with it or change to it, make any changes to it. I'm struggling to get my words out. Let me know in the comments, As I always say, FPL is all about different opinions. If we all had the same opinion, all of our teams would be the same and it'd be really boring. So please let me know what you think in the comments. Don't mind if you disagree. Just be a bit polite about it, please. All right, if you enjoyed the video as well and want to see more from me, you can subscribe to the Goal to Goal channel. It should be about there on your screen. I'm off to play 5-a-side now. I'll catch you in my next video.